part of my job as a member of the NFL media is to ask the difficult questions. And I think a very difficult question that not a lot of people are asking that we need to ask is what is prohibiting from either team I'm about to talk about today, but specifically the Las Vegas Raiders, what is prohibiting them from making the playoffs, from sneaking into a wild card spot, even in the uber competitive AFC? What is going to stop them? I don't think there's much, to be honest with you. We'll look at both schedules here in a second, but I want to welcome you in to 3 Point Lead. My name is Max Loeb, Loeb's Leads. This is a Loeb's Leads podcast. If you're new, you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you follow so you don't miss any future episodes. We are moving into the Western divisions now. Today, specifically AFC West, Chargers and Raiders. We'll be covering the AFC and NFC West throughout this entire week. Appreciate you guys hopping on. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you listening. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like the video. But let's talk about this Raiders schedule because I think it's a lot easier than people think. I think week one, it's tough because I always want to pick the home teams in week one. But the Raiders are on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers, and I'm leaning towards a Devontae Adams revenge game. I am leaning towards the team that is not having their head coach's first NFL game in 5-6 years. I'm going to lean towards the Raiders. I think that's a very logical pick, even on the road. I think they can get that job done. I think moving into week two, obviously on the road against Baltimore, and Baltimore will be coming off their mini bye from Thursday night game against Kansas City Chiefs. I think Baltimore wins that. But you look at the next couple games, I have the Raiders beating the Panthers week 3. Interesting thing about the Raiders schedule too, by the way, they don't have a true Thursday night game. They play Kansas City on a Friday later on in the season, which I believe is Christmas. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's Christmas, but they play them on a Friday later on, or maybe it's Black Friday. No, I think it's Christmas. We'll check that. We'll check that out a little bit later. No, it would not be Christmas. I think it's Black Friday. It's Black Friday. Regardless, week 3 beating the Panthers. Week 4, I have them upsetting the Cleveland Browns. I think we'll talk about the Browns, but I think the Browns start really hot and then come back down to earth, going into a hostile environment. Week 5, I have them beating the Denver Broncos. I don't think that's a stretch by any imagination to say they can do that. Week 6, I have them losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers, even at home. I think the Steelers are going to be pretty good this year too, but losing the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's going to put them at 3-3 to start the year? 3-3 to start the year, and then you walk into a gauntlet, right? You walk into LA coming off of a full bye. You're going to lose to the Rams coming off a bye. Next week, you host Kansas City. It'll be a good game. I don't think the Raiders can beat Kansas City. The week after that, they travel to Cincy. And then the week after that, they have a bye, but then they come off the bye against Miami. I think they drop all those games. So you hear what I say at the beginning, and you're like, how is this team going to have any chance of making the playoffs? Like there's no way this team can make the playoffs. Well, I think you'll be surprised when you look at these games later on, because there are some really, really winnable ones. So if they're 3-7, I believe, 3-7 coming off the bye with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It should be 8 games. 7 games left. 3-7 off the bye. 3-6 off the bye. 3-7 after a loss to Miami. 7 games left after that. They play host to Denver off of 4 straight losses. I think they can take care of business there. They travel to Kansas City. I think they lose that game too. So they're 4-8. But you travel to Tampa. I think you can beat Tampa. It's going to be tough hosting Atlanta on Monday night, but I think Atlanta pulls that one out. But the last 3 weeks of the season, like you host Jaguars, I think you can beat the Jaguars at home. You go visit the Saints, I think you can beat the Saints at home. And then, guys, like last game of the season, I'm going to pick the Chargers because I think it's a split. But that puts them at 8-9. If you have them beating the Chargers, that's 9-8. Like 9-8, shoot it. 9-8, and if they beat the Chargers, their division record would be 4-2. 9-8 with a 4-2 division record genuinely might get you in the playoffs. I think that's a real thing. I think that's a very real possibility. 9-8 gets you into the playoffs in the AFC in the 7th spot. I know people are talking about the AFC being so good. Keep in mind, everybody's got to play each other in the AFC. Like, you're not playing out of conference as much as you would play other AFC teams. They're going to beat up on each other. The divisional teams are going to beat up on each other. It really, really would not shock me if the last seed in the AFC playoffs is a 9-8 team. So, with that being said, I do officially have them going 8-9. I think they win 8 games. I think they lose 9. But on the other side of the coin, you flip a game, you steal one from Kansas City, you beat the Chargers the last week of the season, you're 9-8, and you could be looking at a playoff spot. Let's move to the Los Angeles Chargers, because I do think this is another team that could do some damage. I would be really surprised if they did, but I think they could do some damage. They very, very well could. Especially considering, again, like I think it's going to take 9 wins to get in the playoffs in the AFC. I think that's what the last spot will be. But LA is a team that has a first-year head coach with Jim Harbaugh. LA is a team that kind of revamped or overhauled everything they were doing offensively. And there's very clearly a belief that what they're doing is working or going to work. So I'm very fascinated to see what Jim Harbaugh cooks up in LA. Before we talk about the Chargers, though, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Better. If you guys aren't on Better Picks, you can go to any of my socials, clicking the link in the description, and join with code LEADS. That's LEADS. They'll match your first deposit up to $250. It is the best way to play fantasy sports. You can pick more or less on your favorite players, and we are almost in August. In August, we will be giving our season-long player projections, talking about different players as it relates to these different teams. So we move to the North and the South Division. When August begins, I will be giving players throughout those podcasts and videos to talk about as well, and circling back to the players that we've already talked about to make even more predictions for these players and these teams that we're talking about now. So if you're not on Better, make sure you go join. Code LEADS, LEADS. They'll match your first deposit. Don't miss out. They're getting you in before the NFL season starts. They're going to help you out with a deposit match. You don't want to miss out. But let's talk about the LA Chargers. Like I said, week 1 on the road, or at home, against the Raiders. I don't think they win there. But week 2 against the Carolina Panthers, I think they take care of business. Week 3 on the road against Steelers, I don't think they win that one. Week 4, hosting the Chiefs, I don't think they win that one. So you're the Chargers. Harbaugh coming in. You start 1-3. You start 1-3, and then you move into a bye week. Now, bye weeks early on in the season, to me at least, are not usually great. I don't think they're the best for a team. However, you look at the teams the Chargers come off the bye playing, they're going to wind up 4-3. They're going to travel to Denver off the bye, which honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they practiced in Denver that week on the bye. But they come off the bye, play Denver. They play Arizona in Arizona the next week. Then they host the Saints. Now, Saints are coming off of a mini bye, but I think they can win all 3 of those games. I think they do. Next week, you play Cleveland. You visit Cleveland. You probably lose that game. So they're 4-4. The week after that, you host Tennessee. I think they beat Tennessee, but then listen to the rest of the schedule. Playing host to Cincinnati off a mini bye. They're not going to win that, 5-5. Playing host to Baltimore, not going to win that. 5-6. Visiting Atlanta off a mini bye, you're not going to win that. You're 5-7. Visiting Kansas City, you're not going to win that. You're 5-8. The only area where I could see them kind of picking up some steam again will be towards the back half of the season when they play these divisional teams. Now, they host Tampa in week 15. I don't think they beat Tampa. I think Tampa's a better team than the Chargers are. I think Tampa can score a lot of points. I think they'll give them trouble through the air. So I think they lose to Tampa, but you look at the last couple of weeks, I have them beating Denver in week 16. We already talked about the Patriots. I have the Patriots beating them, but you beat the Raiders in week 18 like we talked about. You're sitting at 7-10. So Chargers sitting at 7-10. That's my official prediction for them. But you flip-flop a game or two here where maybe you beat Tampa at home when you shouldn't. Maybe you upset a team like the Ravens or the Bengals, even the Chiefs. Somebody at home. You beat a team at home that you shouldn't, and you take care of business elsewhere. Again, that's a 9-8 team. I think these teams are better than people give them credit for. I don't think either of them truly will make the playoffs as the seeding shakes out with all of this stuff. And you guys make sure you stay tuned so you can see the full seeds. But these are teams that are on the cusp. And I think if a game or two goes their way, like I said, I think the last spot, it's going to take 9 wins. It's only going to take 9. I'd be shocked if it was a 10-7 team. I think it's only going to take 9. And I think there's 9 potential wins on this schedule for both teams, but more realistically for the Raiders. Raiders at 8-9, Chargers at 7-10, both with 3-3 division records, splitting with each other, losing both to the Chiefs, oddly enough, and then splitting with or beating Denver both times. So no, splitting with Denver. No, beating Denver both times. My bad. Okay. 8-9 Raiders, 7-10 Chargers. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys listening. Again, if you're new, make sure to leave a like. Make sure to leave a comment on what teams you want to see next. We have a schedule on the Instagram where I will actually be talking about who's going next, and you can see who to expect tomorrow, July 30th. Until then, God bless you guys. I appreciate you watching and listening. Thank you.